Right then, we are back for the final race of the championship, the final round of the Sony Thursday Night League. And yeah, drama. It's hard to not say exactly what happened now before it happened because there's not much else to talk about. But what I'll do is I'll say there was a penalty, a crash, drama, and yeah, a load of unfortunate things happened during this race, which looking back at it now, at the time I was very angry about it. Even the day after, I was very angry about it. And now watching the footage back, I accept it. I understand. I to be fair, I agree with it, with the penalty. Although I do think it's harsh, because I certainly wasn't the only one that was doing it, but I seem to be the only one getting warnings for it. But anyway, I don't know. Maybe race direction had it in for me. Maybe I annoyed them with my antics over the last couple of months. Who knows? But right, lightweights are about to start, and we qualified on pole position today, which I think is about our 5th or 6th pole position in a row. Fastest overall and fastest in the heavyweight class by a good chunk again. Now, this I was feeling very confident going into this race. I felt like the lap times were coming very, very comfortable for me. So I was just sat here thinking, right, just need to get in the lead and kind of get into the race and see what happens and just take it smooth and take it easy. But here's the race start. Actually got a really, really good start this time around. I don't normally get very good starts, but today I did. So much so I actually veered back to the wet line, which kind of left me open on the inside here. I knew this was going to happen anyway, because it's happened the last couple of weeks where obviously that was probably an opportunity there that I left the door open. And what you'll see there is probably the first track limits warning I got was going over the curb there at 3. Now, I think when you're analysing these situations, you need to use logic. So you'll see that I had all 4 wheels over the curb there, and the simple reason I did that is because from experience, I've been going to this track for probably a couple of years now. And it's happened to me in the past where if 2 karts come together, especially in the wet, going into 3, one of them is going to end up in the tyre wall and the exit. And I thought, Richard's a mate. I thought, I can't be bothered with that, so I'll just take it up on the curb and, obviously do the smart thing so none of us get our races ruined. And unfortunately, that was the first warning. So again, obviously, race direction clearly see it otherwise, but hey ho. But yeah, anyway, we're in the lead now, and it's going to be pretty boring up until the incident. In terms of the race, it's literally just going to be me in front, kind of managing the distance. So what I'll do is I'll just give you a little run through of what I'm thinking right now in this race. So I've got a good kart. First and foremost, a Kart 20 is a very, very good kart. So when I drew that kart, I was very confident that it was going to be a very, very, very good fast race for me. So the strategy for me was to get in the lead on the first lap, and then put the hammer down for a lap or 2, pull a gap, and kind of just maintain it there as I need to. So what you'll see now is this is obviously only the second lap of the race. Tyres are still relatively cold, and we do set the fastest lap of the race, which I think was a 1 minute 38.9, and in comparison I think the second fastest was like a 1 minute 40.3, I think it was, or somewhere around there. So yeah, a good chunk. So you can see that on the lap time delta there straight away. I'm about a second under my qualifying time, which I think was a 39.8, something along those lines. So obviously, yeah, I was obviously feeling good, and there's plenty of lap time on the circuit to take. So what you'll see in a couple of laps time, or maybe even the next lap, in my head I was like, right, I just want to reel some laps off. I don't want to look over my shoulder. I just want to just concentrate on what I'm doing, and then obviously I'll just start maintaining the gap. So as we finish this hot lap here, which, like I said, I set this on lap 2, and then I had a little look over my shoulder, and then we just backed the pace right back down, and just basically just cruising around, just basically just waiting for the timer to go down on the start finish. Now, what you'll see here is that's the first warning that I got, track limits, hence why I paused the video there. So track limits warning just there was the first one. And when you're focusing and you're under high pressure and whatnot, sometimes you kind of not forget, but you're just so locked in. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to kind of, you know, again, another little track limits warning there. So, you know, technically by the book, yes, these are track limit warnings, but it's wet. You're on slick tyres. You know what I mean? You're going to run off track every now and then, and you know, like considering this race was full of people going through barriers, into barriers, and whatnot. There needs to be a little bit of common sense, I believe. And again, like I said, I definitely don't think it's the right thing to just focus on one individual when, you know, there's a grid of like 20, 30 drivers all doing exactly the same thing. But I think it's probably the downside of having a lot of pace on the rest of the field. You kind of are standing out to race control in that sense. So obviously, logically, they're going to pick up on these things that you know, when you make a mistake or whatever, which has been the case a couple of times this year, to be fair, with me receiving penalties, which, you know, is what it is, but whatever. Anyway, we are basically just killing time now. So if you look at the lap timer, you know, I had a little look over my shoulder on this lap at turn 4, and I could see where Rich was. I was like, right, gap's there. I'm not fussed. Okay, so what you'll see now is basically my lap times. I pull the pace back a little bit to keep it on the road without any mistakes or whatnot, ironically, which I do keep. I obviously made a couple of track limit warning, but obviously didn't help me do that. But yeah, so you'll basically see me drop the pace down to around about a second-ish off of you know, what I know I can do, and you know, that pace there was still quicker or as quick as like the fastest laps of the other drivers. So it was kind of like, you know, at that pace I was very comfortable and I wasn't really feeling any risk. I was just kind of like I said, just watching the timer on the race timer, just waiting for it to basically become the final lap, and then you know, race finished. Now about to go into a yellow flag situation here, and I need to be a bit quicker with these yellow flag reactions. So you can see here, obviously Rich is 2 karts behind there, and he's closed the gap back up under the yellow. And basically this is after this yellow flag, it's green. You can see here I'm so far back from the back marker here, which ironically is actually Rich's son. And this is green. In my opinion, I should have been on his bumper ready to pass at this next corner, but again, I just a little bit slow to react there. But you know, we tie it back here and squeeze down the outside into turn 7. And then, yeah, it's basically just kind of like exactly what I've been saying at the start of this video, just hitting the markers, just basically just killing the time without taking too much risk, because even when I backed the pace off, the gap was still increasing. So it was just a case of, like I said, just finish the race and see the checkered flag and take the championship. But as we now know, that didn't happen because of some track limit warnings and, you know, all the rest of it. But you know, it is what it is. I'll obviously talk you through it when we get there. But as we can see here, you know, final corner there, we could keep it on the track on that occasion. But yeah, I'm going to jump out of this video because I'm just waffling. But yeah, basically I will jump back in when I get the final warning for track limits. And we'll pick up from there. Now, I thought I'd drop a little bit more audio in here, because what you're going to see, I'm actually starting to get a cramp. So what you'll see in a minute is me rubbing my leg, and it looks like I'm pleasuring myself there on the racetrack, but I'm actually getting cramp, and I'm just trying to like beat it out of my leg, because obviously that's my throttle foot, and I really can't be affording to take my foot off the throttle. And as you'll see here, again, I'm giving my leg a rub, I'm trying to hit it to try and loosen the cramp off. So yeah, another little distraction there, which yeah, was fantastic. Right, so we are coming to the end of this lap, and as I go over the start finish line, I'm about to get the final warning. Now, I'll hold my hands up here. I had no idea what this flag actually means, the black and white flag. So what you'll see in a minute, I'm going to pause the shots now. So you'll see there, it's a black and white flag that says track limits kart 20, which according to the rule book, as you'll see here, is basically the final warning. Okay, now there was definitely a little bit of confusion from my side. Now obviously, look, I got the penalty regardless. I'm not saying that flag there was the reason I got a penalty, because it happened anyway, which you're about to see now. So what happens here is, bearing in mind I'm on my final warning, I look down the track there to check my rival, which is Rich, coming into there, and as I look forward again, I'm off the track. So essentially the reason why I got the penalty on that occasion, was simply because I was looking down the track, and accidentally, as I was obviously not looking where I was going, drove off the edge of the track. So, you know, nothing intentional, but by the rules, that's the rule, and you know, that was the track limit warning. So yeah, a little bit frustrating. So obviously at this time I still didn't know whether, you know, that was I'd actually got a penalty or not. Now, one thing I would say is, in the past, because I've got a penalty like this before, or a warning, let's say, it was all done in text before, where it would say track limits kart 20 final warning. Okay, now obviously if anyone from Daytona is watching this, I highly recommend you put this into a suggestion into race control. When it's dark like this, you've got rain on your visor, it's raining, you've got the lights, you know, glaring in your eye as well with the floodlights. Obviously you've got white text and a white background, so it's very hard to read anyway. Now obviously, like I said, that's not the reason why I got the penalty at all, so that's fine, but I would definitely recommend putting it back to text so it's easy to read. Now what you'll see here is me realise I've now actually got a penalty. So obviously you can see me waving my hands around like an absolute idiot at my disgust at this penalty. Now obviously at this point I didn't know, obviously you can see on the screen it was actually a 5-second penalty, but I didn't know it was 5 seconds. So in my head, like, you know, this has been probably one of the easiest races I've had to date, where I'm literally just cruising around, not really trying, and all I've got to do is just finish the race and I'll take the championship. And you know, I don't know whether this is going to be a 3-second penalty, a 5-second penalty, a 10-second penalty, or a place penalty. You know, that's what's going through my head right now. So obviously, of course, I'm not really concentrating as much as I can. I'm making a few mistakes. I'm absolutely raging. The championship that I've, you know, over the last probably 5 or 6 rounds dominated, has now, you know, due to the last, you know, I think over the last 4 rounds, you know, there's been, you know, 2 of those races that I won technically, but I got penalties or I got taken out, and basically just give 3 points away, which is the only reason why this championship will go into the final round anyway. So obviously all this is going through my head right now. I'm winding myself up. I'm angry at the world. The world's a horrible place. So as I get to this point here, I'm like, right, okay, I don't think it's going to be a position penalty. It's going to be a time second penalty. So I thought, right, I'm going to assume it's 10 seconds. So in my head, I'm like, right, I'm going to push as hard as I can now, win by 10 seconds and win the championship. And then right about now, you're going to see me run out of talent and leave the track. And I pause it here because I started to clap to race control because I was just applauding them for their penalty, which has just caused me to crash. So basically I went flat out into the barrier, but just to keep the kart moving, which was definitely the right call, because we've just come out, even going off track, even going into the barrier, the second place drivers only just managed to get in front. So yeah, anyway, at this point my head is absolutely fried, and I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't know if it was just kind of a bit of a blur looking back at it, because I'm just raging in my helmet. And you know, at this point, like you'll see the clip here. You know, the pace difference between me and the kart in front is quite significant, especially in certain areas. Like now, for example, you'll see that the speed difference is pretty dramatic. You know, obviously, like, you know, me and Rich are mates. You know what I mean? Although I was angry at the situation, it's not his fault. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, should I force an overtake and just get back to the front and pull away? But then at this time, I think there was only about 2 minutes left on the board anyway of the race. I'm thinking, well, I ain't going to pull a 5-second lead or a 10-second lead in 2 laps. Do you know what I mean? So I was just like, well, what's the point? But funnily enough, there's actually a red flag now anyway. So you're about to see us come to a stop. Due to, funnily enough, it was actually our friend Mike crashed into the barrier and flipped out the kart. So luckily the kart was okay and the track was alright. So at least we could finish our race. But no, he was right. But this is me and Rich discussing the incident and whatnot, and obviously me just giving myself a dead leg for self-punishment. And yeah, basically this is just basically the race restarting. And you know, at this point, I'm thinking, should I just pull in? What's the point? Yeah, I was just kind of like a half-hearted finish to the race, really. To be fair, there's a couple of overtake attempts that I make, but nothing that I was really forcing. Let's say it was just kind of like optimistic passing opportunities. Like for example, there at turn 9, I do a couple of lunges in a bit at the final corner, just because why not? But yeah, the determination, everything just gone now. Do you know what I mean? It was just kind of like, right, just finish the race. Like now, I could have passed quite comfortably going into 2. I have a good little advantage on the brakes going into 2. But I just rolled out of it, backed out of it, and kind of just decided to follow. So yeah, basically this is all you're going to see finally. The rest of the race is me just basically following him home. So also to add insult to injury, after the race had finished, we done the D-Max race as well afterwards. So I ran in, quickly had a drink, went to the toilet, that sort of thing. And they said, I actually need to weigh in, otherwise you're going to get disqualified. So I was like, okay, cool, because I just walked straight past the weighbridge, obviously, because I was raging, I wanted to drink and all the rest of it. So on the way back out, on the way down into the D-Maxes, I stood on the weighbridge, and one of the guys there at work, who works there doing the weigh-ins, took my weight and said, all right, Ash, all good. And then, obviously, when we done the trophy presentations afterwards, they said I was disqualified because I didn't weigh in. So just to add salt in the wound, I got disqualified from the race and didn't get any points. But in reality, it didn't make any difference anyway, because I still finished second, even with not picking up any points. But yeah, I feel like it was a pretty bad day for me on reflection. But you know, like I said, the penalty itself, I hold my hands up. I was pretty pissed off. I was a bit of a miserable git after the race, you know, with my friends, with staff, and all the rest of it, which is no one else's fault but mine. Penalty, I'm all good with. Like I said, I think it was harsh, but definitely warranted, based on what I've seen on the footage. To be fair, I was more disappointed with how I reacted to the situation, as in basically me coming off the track, because in reality, all I needed to do was just keep doing what I was doing, and I would have finished the race and won the championship anyway, even with the penalty. But obviously, it's heat of the moment, and you know, this championship has been boiling up for, like, you know, it's like a 12-round championship. So this championship's been going on for ages, and it was all coming down to like the boiling point, high pressure situation and whatnot. And yeah, I just lost it. But anyway, is what it is. But yeah, we finished second in the championship in the end, to Rich, who took the championship, or I should say was given the championship. That's another thing, actually. If I'm looking at, you know, this in a positive way, and this might sound cringe, I don't really care. You know, well, sorry, actually, this actually makes it a little bit worse. Was, you know, that if you know, Rich or whoever stepped up and took it off me, I would have been like, you know, fair play, mate. You know, what, you know, there's absolutely no disappointment, no whatever. You beat me fair and square. But considering over like the last, you know, in particular this race and 3 races in total, I've literally given points away, given victories away. So it's kind of a little bit of salt in the wound at myself that, you know, I didn't get beaten for this championship. I basically just give it away and handed it to someone else, which again, we've got to live with now. But yeah, obviously we had one little final lunge at the last corner here just to make it interesting, and that is it. End of the race. Championship done. Congrats to Rich. We'll be back again for the next one.